Sit. Yes. This is my buddy Bear, and this is Bear's roadmap to success. Now, Bear is a good, determined dog. He has a lot of determination. He was kind of surprised entry addition to the family, maybe is a good way to put it. Is that right?
Yes.
And so basically, Bear is a little bit confused into his role. And I think the main theme for this is his guardian loves him a lot, and she's a very caring person. But a lot of us misinterpret that we will love a person or a dog into compliance or behaving well. And that usually is not the case. You can't change somebody. They've got to, I was going to say change their stripes. He doesn't have a brindle, but he's got a beautiful coat. But we can't want somebody else to do something. They have to do it for themselves. And so I think there are times when Bear doesn't do what his guardian wants him to do, and she gives him a pet anyways, or a treat, or if he doesn't do it, not a big deal. Now, I'm not a force and punishment person, so I'm not saying you have to punish your dog, but there should be consequences, and consequences doesn't, I guess, could be a punishment, but it's more, if I don't do this, this happens. And so that can be a motivator for dogs. So when we were upstairs shooting the video above, I noticed that whenever Bear didn't listen, if I had his guardian leave, which is referred to as a negative punishment, we're deducting something that Bear really likes, in this case, his favorite person. So if he doesn't listen and she leaves the room and closes the door behind him, that got his motivation. All of a sudden he got up and went to the door. He wanted to scratch, he wanted to get out. So what I'd recommend the guardian do is when she's asking him to do things and Bear decides not to do so, and it's safe to leave him behind, go through the nearest door and close the door behind you, leaving Bear behind. Now, it'd be nice if you have a security camera so you could actually have that open. And then when you're on the other side of the door, before Bear scratches, I would say sit. And if Bear sits, then I open the door and come back into the room. If he doesn't sit, I would wait. Now, we're playing with a little fire here. If we leave him out for too long, he might bark and scratch the door, which we don't want him to do. So we might put plexiglass on the back of the door stop so that if he does scratch at it, it's not actually damaging the door. Remember, all attention from humans is reinforcing. And that's a fancy way of saying that any attention from us motivates the dog to do something again, or motivates the dog. So if the dog jumps up and I'm like, even I look at the dog, that's a reward. Eye contact. People are like, I just looked at him? Yes, I got your attention as a dog. Now, the way that we think about it is the dog is getting in the coffee thing above. We say, no, don't get in the coffee. And what Bear hears is anytime I get in the coffee, I get their attention 100% of the time. When I sit, sometimes they give me attention, sometimes they don't. When I come, sometimes they do. When I look at them, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But that coffee, 100%. So if I want attention, I'm going to go get into the coffee to get their attention, which is the exact opposite of what the humans are doing. He gets in the coffee, they go chase him because they don't want him to hurt himself by eating the coffee grounds. But he doesn't think that way. He just thinks that's going to get me attention. So what I'd like the guardian to do is start playing a little hard to get. And so we're going to ask Bear to do things. If he does things, great. We say the marker word yes, and he gets rewarded. And try to say yes instead of saying good job or good boy. And be careful not to drag your S's. You say yes a lot, and that's a hissing sound that a lot of snakes and a lot of other animals make as a warning. So instead, we're going to say yes if he does a thing, and give him a pet or reward. If he doesn't, and we have the ability to, and it's safe to do so, we're going to leave him behind and cause him to be, oh, I really want to, now I'm missing her. Now, darn it, why wasn't I sitting down? So we say sit from behind the closed door. We have a security camera. We can see he sits, we open the door and come right back in. So after a while, Bear starts to figure out, I better listen to her, otherwise the consequence might be that I get left behind. And I don't want to be left behind. Now, the video above talks about the relaxation protocol, which will go through preparing him and helping him practice being left behind in a safe, positive way. But we talked about playing hard to get, but we also want to make sure that it's clear for him that he knows what he can do to contribute, what is wanted from him. And the way that I like to achieve that is something I call the celebrate game. Dog trainers often call this capturing. I don't like capturing because I think the methodology or the terminology matters. I personally don't want to ever be captured. So but I enjoy being celebrated. So that's why I call it celebrating. Celebrating is waiting for Bear to do something that's desirable. Could be a sit, coming to you, eye contact, laying down, stretching, drinking water, anything that he does on his own accord that you want to make into a command or a cue. So he sits, you say yes and pet him. He lays down, you say yes and pet him. He comes to you, yes and pet him. Eye contact. Any of these things you want, we're not asking him to do it. Can we ask him to do it and pet him and reward it? Absolutely. But to offset this, I want him to know without a doubt the things that are desired by his humans. And we're going to give it weight by rewarding him when he chooses to offer those behaviors on his own. Now, just like us, if I get complimented when I do something, I might be more likely to do that again in the future. So if he sits and he gets rewarded, sits and gets rewarded, after a while, he's just going to sit in front of people to ask for his attention. And if he does, then we want to make sure we mark a reward. Now, I use the watchword of celebrate. So if Bear walked up to me and I wasn't paying attention, my partner says celebrate, I say yes, and I just pet him on his chest. I don't need to know what it is. They're going to help me by reminding me. Remember, you only have 2 seconds after he does something for him to make that connection. So if he comes to me and somebody sees him comes, that's 1 second. They say celebrate, that's 2-second number 2. I don't have any time to ask what it is or reach for a treat. I say yes and pet him on his chest. After a while, he'll start coming and sitting down to prepay for the attention. That actually usually comes through a little bit better after we go through what I call the concept of the do-over, or teaching dogs manners. Now, a lot of dogs will come and nudge you with their nose, paw at you, bark at you, jump at you when they want you to give them attention. And they do it because it works. So what I'd like you to do next time that he nudges you or paws at you, give him the do-over. So, give me attention. Sit. I say it 1 time in a normal or assertive tone of voice, and he has 2 seconds to comply. If he complies in 2 seconds, I say yes, I pet him on his chest, which is where he likes being petted. If I say sit and he doesn't sit, I lean back, I pull out my phone, check some emails, play a little guitar, play a video game, watch TV, chat up with my mom, whatever it is. He's not getting what he wants. I'm not punishing him, but because he didn't do what I asked him to do, he's not getting rewarded. Next time that I ask him to do it, he's probably going to be more motivated to think about it. Last time I demanded attention from David, and he asked me to sit, and I didn't sit. I didn't get anything. But every time I sit around him, he's petting me. That's the celebrate thing. That's the other side of the coin. So these things kind of work together. So after a while, when he comes up and he demands attention, we say sit, and he's going to start sitting more often. Then we say yes and pet him. And after a while, he's going to come and start sitting in front of you to prepay for the attention, what I was talking about a minute ago. When he does, you bet your bottom, you better pet him. The concept of the do-over is great. Both things are great. Does it mean you can't pet your dog? Absolutely not. But in the guardian's case, the primary guardian here, I would like her to get into a habit, like for the next month, of asking him to do something before she pets him. Even if she just wants to pet him and he's not doing anything wrong or undesirable, but you want to pet him, sit. If he doesn't sit, you're going to restrain yourself. If you have to, pet your own arm. Give yourself some scratches. And after a while, when you say sit, he's going to realize I do what she wants and I get what I want, or I don't do what she wants and nothing happens, i.e. I'm not getting what I want. We don't have to punish a dog to train them. So after a while, we're going to shift the leader-follower dynamic and give him motivation to want to listen to the humans. Now, let me see. I gave a whole lot of information. I'm going to try to emphasize as much as I can. Dogs have 10 levels of energy, I like to think. 0 is asleep. He's right now at a 0. 10 is as crazy as you've ever seen him. When he gets to level 5, whether he's playing with the other dog or on a walk or playing at the dog park or whatever it is, I like to stop them. I don't like to let them engage above 50% of their energy range, especially when playing, because that's often when mistakes happen. Now, as humans, we love to play with dogs and wrestle with them. But dogs, when they wrestle with each other, they wrestle with their mouth. So there's one member of the family that likes to wrestle with him, which I understand that, but I like that member of the family to have giant things in his hand because he's going to use his mouth. So I want him appropriately doing it with dog toys and not the person's arm or hand. Just because he can do it with one person is going to mean to him, I can do this with grandma and mom and sister and everybody else in the family. And we don't want him to do that. We need him to learn to play relaxed. And if the energy level gets above 50%, whether it's any type of play, including playing with the human, the play should stop. I would recommend for the wrestling with the human is anytime teeth touch, immediately the game stops. The first touch, if you try to be nice, oh, he didn't mean it, I'll do it 3 times, he doesn't know what caused it. If every time he touches his tooth to a person, the game stops, that is how he learns. Half of how dogs learn is not doing the thing or making a mistake and not being rewarded. And that's why if we have somebody who's very loving, who rewards the dog no matter what, they don't know what it is that you want, and they feel like that love is my default and I should always get it, and that robs them of the motivation. So when you're doing play dates and for a puppy, usually the general rule of thumb is 5 minutes of play for each month they are aged. That is 8 months, 40 minutes is the max I would like to see him doing that for a play date or the dog park or whatever the case may be. Now, the Guardian does a good job of exercising him, but she's doing it in bigger batches than I would like to see. I would rather see 3 20-minute walks sprinkled throughout the day than one 1-hour walk. Now, I'd also like to see the Guardian using mental stimulation. So one of the things I'd like the Guardian to do is sit down and think of a routine. Come up with a routine where we can add in exercise to the dog. You want to give dogs exercise or mental stimulation about every 2 to 4 hours. So maybe we wake up in the morning, we take him out to potty. When he gets done pottying, we say yes and give him a treat. And then we play fetch and count the number of fetches. And again, you might find the right number of fetches before we're going to have him meet grandma or whatever the case may be. Maybe in the morning, he just gets 33 fetches. And then we give him 10 minutes to recover. You're showering, doing your morning ritual. When you get done, he needs 10 minutes of rest after any exercise. Then you feed him out of a snuffle mat. Snuffle mat's going to take longer for him to eat, and snuffle mat is like a short walk. So now he woke up full of energy. You exercise him. He came down to about 75% of his energy range. You gave him a chance to recover. He's back about 80%. Then you feed him on a snuffle mat. Maybe he's down to about 65%. Then he's a lot easier to deal with. And so exercise is not going to solve your problems. It's going to make it easier for you to solve your problems though. So playing fetch is a great way to burn energy as well as tug of war. You can also get him a doggy backpack once he turns a year and put some weight in that. It makes the walk a little bit more efficient. Remember, you should not exercise till it's been about 45 minutes after he ate so the food can vacate the stomach. Otherwise, it can flip over, pressurize, and explode and be fatal. Let me see. There's also mental stimulation. The Guardian here is working with a trainer who's big on scent work. I would like to see more scent games, however. I usually advise my clients after I show them Cookie in the Corner, which is the introduction to scent games, to Google and find 3 or 4 scent games themselves. It can be as simple as like a solo cup with 1 treat and a solo cup with none, and do back and forth, and the dog has to figure out which one. They pick the wrong one, they lift it up, there's no treat there, put it back down, shuffle again, pick the right one, yes, and then they get to lick up that treat. So now the dog has to use its nose to find it. Some people play hide and seek. We can do a bait lure. You might want to Google scent games with a red Kong. Red Kongs are specifically designed, they have a special smell that dissipates. Most smells will linger for a long time. It makes it harder for dogs to find trails. You'll find a bunch of cool articles about a red Kong where you can hide it somewhere, the dog's got to find it. And that's a great way to drain energy for a dog. Training is a great way to drain energy for a dog. So if we can feed them out of a snuffle mat, maybe get the Omega Paw Tricky Treat Ball, maybe a Sir Wobble-Lot. God, I can't wait. Pet Safe has a couple treat dispensing toys. I don't like the puzzle ones. I want the things that roll around because they always roll a little bit differently. So if we're feeding him out of a different puzzle for each meal, it's going to slow down his feeding, boost his confidence, and drain energy. So those are 2 meals a day. That's like 2 short walks. So if we maybe take him for 3 short walks plus 2 meals, we're at 5 exercise things a day. Then I'd like you to also Google DIY enrichment. One of them is to take that paper towel holder. Take a paper towel, put a piece of kibble on it, crumple it over once, put another piece of kibble, crumple it more, and then stuff it in there. And then you do that for about 10, 15, 20 pieces of toilet paper, put it down on the ground. And especially if you're using something really high smelly like Tricky Trainers or something like that has a strong smell, he's gonna shred. Shredding is a very normal behavior for dogs. Now you're giving him something to do. And that's enriching his life, burning energy, making him feel good about himself. There's a whole lot of DIY enrichment games and exercises out there. I'd like you to find 3 scent games. You can ask your trainer for 3 specific scent games. If not, Google or use YouTube. Same thing for DIY enrichment. 5 different DIY enrichment toys. You can make a lot of them yourself. You can buy some online. And so the idea is getting him physical exercise or mental stimulation about every 2 to 4 hours, and then recognizing, you know what, grandma gets up at this time. I want him to meet grandma. That's another issue. He gets overexcited, sometimes jumps up on grandma. Grandma's a little bit older. She's about 40. Now she's a little bit older than I am. And so we're worried that he might hurt grandma. So we need to make sure that we are teaching him how to interact with her appropriately. Exercising him before we do this sets him up for success, provided he has that 10 or 15 minutes to relax. Then maybe we exercise him, give him 10, 15 minutes to relax. Then we take him in to meet grandma on a leash. We've set him up by taking care of his physical needs. We have also maybe taught him to walk up to grandma. So maybe we have sister in grandma's room, and we walk up and he sits down and she says yes and gives him a treat. You leave the room, close the door, do the same thing. If you knock on the door, recreate whatever you normally do when you go to grandma's room. Grandma, can I come in? Yes, open the door, walk him over. He sits down, yes, and your sister gives him a treat wherever grandma normally sits or stands. So we're helping him practice that thing. And if he jumps up on your sister, she's sturdy, it's not going to hurt her and the way it might for grandma. And we get him used to that behavior pattern. And then after we practice that a couple times, then we go in there and does he not know how to sit in front of grandma? Of course not. Of course he does. But by practicing that and repeating it, we help him get in a behavior pattern. Then we bring him in there on a leash after we've exercised him. We tell him to sit, or grandma tells him to sit. He sits, we give him a treat, and then we walk out of the room and we maybe close the door and repeat that 3 to 5 times. Grandma's like, you guys are weirdos. Why do you come in here 5 times? The more dog behavior modification and training is a numbers game. We have to repeat it a lot. So after a while, that's normal. I meet grandma by going into a room, sitting down in front of her, and she gives me a treat. But if we don't do that, he spazzes out. He runs there. Grandma loves him. Grandma loves to give him treats. He gets overexcited. A lot of us, we confuse excitement for happiness with dogs. They can be happy and excited, but they can also be happy and calm. They don't have to be excited to be happy. Matter of fact, excited is usually when mistakes happen. So we want to try to mitigate that as much as possible, which I talked about the break every time they get to level 5 energy. So let me see. We also talked about the importance of rules and structure. The Premack principle means the less desirable behavior earns me a more desirable behavior. I.e., if he wants to go for a walk, I tell him to sit. If he sits, then I open the door and go for a walk. I don't want to sit, but I do want to go for a walk, so I'll sit to go for a walk. Premack principle can't be with food, though. So I would start doing this. And if I tell him to sit at the door and he doesn't sit, I walk away. I give him 2 seconds. I say sit once. He has 2 seconds to sit, provided he knows how to do it, which he does. Then I walk away and I sit down. And I wait 1 minute. Then I go back to the door and I command him to sit again. Sit. 1, 2. Don't sit by 2 seconds. Walk away and sit down for 2 minutes. Next time I sit down for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. I keep double length of time. And eventually when he sits, I say yes, and we open the door and we go out for a walk. Well, if we go to the door and we're like, okay, it's almost 2 o'clock and I'm late and I only have a couple minutes, and he doesn't sit, we get impatient, we get frustrated with him. So instead, if you got to go, he's going to take a little time, try doing this 10 minutes beforehand. Walk to the door, sit, he doesn't sit, walk away, sit down, and you're going to email your friends anyways. You're going to check whatever it is. If he happens to open the door, shit, okay, we can go out early. But at first, you want to do that in advance and help him be prepared for that. And so eventually, he'll go sit at the door saying, this is how I sit to go outside. I sit to get the door to open, instead of scratching at the door to get the door to open. I would have the guardian inside a room go over teaching him how to use a bell to open the door. So have the door of your room closed, put a push pin in and put the bells so the bells are on the wall right at his nose level. And then basically, every time you go out the door, go touch with your hand right next to the bell. He touches your hand, it rings the bell, then you go open the door and let him out. And after a while, he'll go nudge the bell to say, I want to go outside. And so now you've given a way to communicate what he wants without scratching the door, which is what you don't want. Let me see. We also, let me see. There was some other things that we went over. We went over the Leave It cue. I'm going to try to have the Leave It video on this write-up. If I don't, please message me and I'll add it in. We went over, let me see, a recall exercise upstairs. Same thing. If I don't have that linked, message me and I can embed the link of the video that we share with people for puppy class. But practicing when you don't need it is really important. So practice the Leave It cue in different parts of the house. At first with the treats, like I showed you, and eventually with the Keurig cup or the piece of paper or whatever it is that he gets into. Socks, shoes, remote controls, underwear, whatever it is, practice with that thing when you're there. And when you're not there, make sure that thing is put away so he can't get into it. Remember, we want to block him from doing the unwanted behavior for about 3 months while we practice the heck out of the desired behavior to form a new behavior pattern. So let me see. I'm trying to think what else. The other dog didn't want to go outside. Go to the door, show the other dog, what's the other dog's name?
Jax.
Jax, the treat. And then without him here, throw the treat out. He runs out and gets it, say yes, and then when he licks up the treat, then step outside, show him you have another treat, and say in, and throw it in. He runs inside, say yes, then he licks the treat. Come up with a cue that needs to go in and out. Now, Jax and Bear are kind of separated because Bear is a lot bigger. He likes to play with Jax. Jax doesn't really want to play with Bear. Jax is 9. Jax probably needs to lose some weight. I had an older dog that got a little bit bigger, and he died faster. His back legs stopped working. And that's one of the most common reasons that we actually have euthanized dogs that aren't having other health issues. So what I'd recommend the guardians do is start taking about 10 or 15% of Jax's food, but using fresh green beans, chop them up. You don't have to cook them. Put about 3 or 4 chopped up green beans, chopped up into maybe little 1/4-inch bits into his food. Jax will like it. It's going to be a different thing, but the fiber will help him feel full. So you can help take that weight off, which will be easier on his joints. He'll live longer. He already doesn't like going up and down the stairs because he is carrying too much weight. The rule is you should be able to feel the ribs, but not see them. So seeing them is too light, but not being able to feel them. I can't feel my ribs. I need to go on a diet too. So we love our dogs. A lot of times we misinterpret giving them food. Giving a dog food, they don't really they have 13% of the taste buds that we have. If you ever accidentally eat a dog cookie, like a cookie treat, it tastes like cardboard. There's almost no flavor. They eat so fast, they're not going to catch the flavor anyways. So if you really love your dog and you want to show your dog you love it, spend a couple minutes doing a training session. Rub its belly. They will like that infinitely more than giving him some food. Now also with him, because the guardian gives him people food, he's guarding the kitchen now. He's insecure that the other dog might get that food. And now that's a potential for a fight. So we have to just not let him have any more people food. And I would probably teach him to stay out of the kitchen. You can do it similar to what I did in the relaxation protocol in the video above. Take him outside the door, take 1 step back in, take 1 step back, yes, give him a treat. 2 steps in the kitchen, he's outside. So we're walking away, kind of like what you did in your door to your room. And eventually, when they go in the kitchen, I wait here outside, and I don't have to worry about if he comes in the kitchen or not because nobody gets any food. But if you're giving Jax food or mom is giving Jax food, he's going to want that food too. Jealousy can be a problem, and there's already a little bit of an issue. I want these dogs to do some things together. And we talked about using exercise to set him up for meeting grandma in the morning. We can use exercise to have him hang out with Jax. After going to the dog park, that's a great time for the dogs to be together. After playing fetch, provided he has enough time to recover. And so we want to start building in positive associations with these two together so that's what they remember each other. Right now, I growl because you come near my food, and he has to leave. He's like, shoot, I got ostracized after coming near his food. That's a negative. So maybe getting lick mats and putting 1 lick mat over here and 1 over there, and the dogs can lick the lick mat. So if we want to give him peanut butter or something like that, do it for a purpose. So now we're having the dogs practice being together, and good things are happening. Licking and chewing release feel-good endorphins. I'm surprised he's not getting up. His guardian just walked around behind. But the licking and chewing release the feel-good endorphins. So if we pair the dogs being Bear being low energy, practice being in the room with Jax, and then maybe he has a little bit more energy. I have a lick mat, you have a lick mat. We're in the room, we're having those feel-good endorphins kind of kick in. Now, we also need to make sure there's not cutoff signals or body language issues going on as well. So I went over cutoff signals. Best place to pet Bear, he likes it on his chest. He does not like it over his head. He does not like it here. He liked it here. He offered cutoff signals. Cutoff signals for dogs include flipping the ears back, turning away, ducking the head, combination of those 3. Refusing to look at you, that's called avoidance. Looking at you through the side of their eye, whale eyes we call that. Refusing to come to you, rolling over you, showing their belly, baring the teeth is a pretty obvious cutoff signal. And so when dogs offer those, if they don't get a response that they're looking for, they're going to raise the level of retort, and they might eventually go to a nip or a bite or a bark or a growl or a snap or whatever it is. So we also dogs really just don't like it when we reach over and pet them on top of the head. So you're going to catch yourself doing this, and do it. Just immediately go underneath and scratch under the chin, but preferably on the chest, which is where he likes it. Body language. I look at the dog's head. Is the mouth open or closed? Now, it could be a hot day or it might be exercise, my mouth may be open. If a dog goes from an open mouth to a closed mouth, that's a warning. Can be a warning, I should say. But if I'm a dog and I'm kind of like wiggly and jiggly, the dogs normally are, and all of a sudden I see something over here and I'm like, that's a really big warning. I closed my mouth. My eyes got open. My ears flipped back. You couldn't see my ears flip back because they're imaginary. But I held my breath and I stared with unblinking eyes and I got still and stiff. That's a big warning. If we recognize that's the warning. So if he does that to Jax and we touch a treat to his nose and lure him away or pull him away if we have to, but if we distract him when he gives the first indication that he's uncomfortable and we move him away or move Jax away, he does not have to go to the next level. It's important. These dogs are practicing spending time together. We have to be careful if their treats out. We don't want to have any fights, but we need to have them having time together in a positive way in order for them. They may not be buddies, but they can learn to be tolerant of each other, maybe pals that don't play. That's great. You can achieve that. Just because they're different ages and styles doesn't mean they can't learn to appreciate each other, but you have to factor that in. And when they're together, one person needs to be in charge of shepherding them. So, maybe you take a rotate thing. Sister, you're in charge right now. If they're together, if you look for any of these body language, so if stiff and still, we're going to separate them. Tail, is it up and straight and stiff? Is it quivering? Or is it in the middle? If this is the dog's spine and this is the head, we'd like to see the tail in the middle, the slower sweeping motion. Now, my dog, Callie, when she gets excited, her tail goes on this side in a circle. Some dogs do a serpentine. Some dogs do a big circle. Recognizing how your dog wags its tail. Tail wagging does not mean happiness. It's more of an indication of their energy level. And where it's wagging is really more indication of how the dog is feeling. So then is the dog holding its breath? Or is it breathing fast? Or is it breathing normally? Is the dog leaning forward? I call it stealing second. This is my foot. My foot's way back here and I'm leaning towards to get a treat. I'm saying I'm insecure. I want to be able to run away. And so learning to read your dog's body language can help you understand whether is the dog holding its body stiff or relaxed. Are the eyes hard or are they soft? Squinty eyes, actually, we call it sleepy eyes. That's really a good thing for dogs. And so if we know that Bear is in a good mood, look and see what his tail's doing. His head, his ears, and all the rest of that stuff. Then when you know that he's a little jealous, what is his tail doing differently? What are her ears doing differently? We are great at reading each other's body language. And dogs are awesome at reading us. We are horrible at reading them. The more you can read your dog's body language. So if you see Bear starts to stare at Jax, you're like, Bear, stop it. You interrupt him before it becomes the thing. Now, I also like to go over something called a pause interrupter. He did not respond at all to any of them. So you're going to have to really load the heck out of him. So pull out a treat, go, put the treat in his mouth. Do that for about 12 treats. Do that 3 to 5 times a day until when you make a, he's looking around. Then if he's staring at Jax and you see him one of those signals and you go, he looks at you, you go touch, he runs over, touches his nose to your hand, you've redirected him away from a potential fight or chewing the thing or getting in the trash or whatever the case may be. And after a while, then the dog starts figuring, you can interrupt these things without giving it attention and causing them to be more inclined to do it again. Let me see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Is there anything else you want me to go over?
I don't think so.
She's like, no, this guy won't shut up. Get him out of my house. But like right there, Bear realized she's out of the room. So one of the other things we went over upstairs is teaching dogs to stay. So I'm also going to try to link, I'm going to intend to link that in your write-up. If I forget, because there's a lot more stuff I'm going over in this one than I normally do, make sure you message me and I can put those in.
No, come back.
Now, when it comes to teaching dogs things, now right there is a good example. She said, now come on, Bear, but the word is come. So make a list of the official cues. Go over them with everybody in the house. And then tell Mom, hey, Mom, if I say come here or any other word than these, I want you to say vocabulary to me. Mom says vocabulary, like, come. The more we make it one words for a Bear, the easier it is for Bear. If we make 5 words for Bear for the same cue, we're making it 5 times as hard. That's going to reduce his performance. Let's supercharge his performance, make it as easy for him as possible. So the stay, practice that one. But what I wanted to go over is when we're practicing things, I like you to pick, if it's an exercise, pick 2, a maximum of 3 that you're going to work on every day. Do in the morning, do in the afternoon, do in the evening. 2 3-minute practice sessions max. Practice in different parts of your house, facing different directions, with you standing, with you sitting, with you kneeling, with you on the couch. Dogs need a lot of variety. Now, first, dogs learn through gesture. Remember, don't start saying, lie down, lie down, lie down. I don't know what lie down is. So I'm going to lure the dog into a lay down position and say yes and reward, take a step away, repeat that. And I keep repeating that until it becomes easy to lure the dog into that position. Once that's the case, then I start saying down as I lure them. And I might do like 5 or 6 downs with a lure first without saying down. And when he's doing it over and over, he's probably going to lay down no matter what I say. Then I say down, lure him down, yes, give him that reward. And it usually takes dogs, every dog is unique, but I usually tell people you should not expect your dog to have the verbal cue from it until you're practicing maybe about 5 or 6 to about 18 different practice sessions. Some dogs are smarter than others and pick things up at either. It also depends on the teacher. If I'm a good teacher, I might be able to get my student to learn it faster. If I'm a slower teacher, it might take a little bit longer. That's okay. We all have limitations. But I'd like you to pick 2 or 3 of those things where you're working on each one of them 2 or 3 times a day, every single day. When you want dogs to learn things, it's important you do in short segments frequently. That goes into their long-term memory. If you try to train a dog like we study in college and try to cram, they're not going to learn it very well. And you're going to be frustrated at the results because you're going too long, and the dog always end on a positive is what you want to do. But a lot of people will just push, and the dog gets tired and can't do it, and then you end on a negative. The dog's like, I don't want to practice stay. Last time we did that, you got very frustrated. So instead, we want to always end on a high note and end early so the dog wants to do that exercise again. And if you can, after training, do a little belly rub, go for a walk, do something the dog really likes doing afterwards so that way it's a positive thing for them. They like doing the training because something good happens afterwards. And the training also gives you different ways of redirecting your dog. Also, training, just like us as a human, when we know more skills, we become more confident, and that confidence is an insulator, a shield from a lot of other things. If we teach our dog a lot of different cues, we have different ways to distract him, and also the dog feels proud about themselves because they know all these things. And the person who taught me all those things, we engender some respect for them because they were there along my process to help me learn these particular things. And so, again, we need to get in a rhythm of rewarding or getting the dog right physical exercise, mental stimulation. That's a regular routine. We need to make sure we're motivating the dog by only asking the dog to do something once. And for the next month, I want the guardian to not pet Bear unless Bear does something for her first. Sits, eye contact, touch, lay down, whatever it is. If he doesn't, she's got to be strong and not restrain and not pet him. And after a while, he'll start figuring out, if I want to get this attention, I need to listen. Listening to people is an awesome thing to do because it gets me a reward. We were practicing teaching him to stay, teaching him to recall. Also, be a video that I link. If I don't, let me know and I'll add that in there. But after a while, he just said, I'm done with this, and went and checked himself out. So I had the guardian do a negative punishment. So she said bye and left the room. He crawled under the bed. As soon as she left the door and he heard the door close, she got up and went over to the door. I had her say sit. He sat. She opened the door, came back in, and we practiced a little bit more. Now, that was probably practicing after a long time. Come on, buddy. But that's why it's important to have short, more successful ones. But again, rhythm. When you watch this, I want you to kind of sit down, make a daily routine for their exercise and mental stimulation, make a daily routine for when you're going to do the exercises, and then rotate the different exercises in there. And again, so you're practicing, maybe 20 minutes a day of actual practice of these different exercises, 3 minutes and 2 minutes each time, three exercises, that's 6 minutes. You do 3 of those a day, that's 6, 12, 18 minutes. So I guess if there's 2 exercises you're doing, that's 25, 35 minutes. Math is not my strong suit. This is Jack's. And so the idea is to get into that rhythm. After a while, you'll get in a rhythm, and then you're going to start seeing some benefits from your dog. Also, make sure you ask him to do it one time. If he doesn't do it, then you're on to the next thing. And if it's safe to do so, negative punishment. If he doesn't listen, you leave and close the door behind him. That's going to motivate him to listen to you better in the future. Jax. Look at this handsome I shouldn't say handsome. She's a good-looking girl. There you go, Jax. Well, this is my buddy Jax. And Bear, you saw in the other video, at the beginning of this video, and this is Bear's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.